Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Indeed, it is an excellent day to serve an excellent God in and with the spirit of excellence. Good morning, Coach Sherry here, Chaplain Sherry, your community pastor Sherry. Sherry from the 800 block of Mooney Avenue. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. As you are coming in this space, my prayer is that you like, share, tag with your social media, your clique, your crew, your church. Good morning. Again, Sherry Jackson here, Coach Sherry, Chaplain Sherry, your community pastor Sherry. Sherry from the 800 block of Mooney Avenue. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good whatever your case may be. Listen, I'm just glad, as they say, you thought it not robbery. You thought it not robbery to come and join me this morning. Listen, I am the unmuted one. The unmuted one. Yes, I am the one that many have silenced, or well, not have, want to silence, right? Want to silence. But I just get louder and louder and louder. Good morning. Good morning. Come on in. If by chance this is your first time being in this space, you're going to see me apply makeup. Good morning, Joy. So glad that you're here. Go ahead on and like and share and tag somebody, bring somebody in. Let's see if we can grow over here and get others to connect in this space, because I believe when you stop here early in the morning, especially, you are sowing in good grounds. So you're going to see me apply makeup. But please know this has nothing to do with makeup tools, tips, or techniques, because it's going to be what it's going to be. Because I have determined what's good enough for me. I know what's good enough for me. So whenever I come to that, and each day is going to be different, whenever I come to that, then I will know that it is time for me to go. It is time for me to go. So again, we have been talking about what it means for us to speak up. What does it mean for us to unmute? What does it mean to speak up for ourselves, for our God, and for our people? What does that mean? Before we can even get to the act of doing it, to engaging in, to speaking up, because we have been so conditioned psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, we have been so conditioned to not speak up, right? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So first we have to change our mindset. And so over the next, especially for this week, we're going to be looking at biblical characters who had real life issues, who spoke up for themselves. So yesterday we focused on Bartimaeus. Good morning, Miss Margaret Brown. Good morning. So glad that you're here this morning. Um, so yesterday we focused on Bartimaeus, the blind man, right, who's sitting on the road um, begging. Um, just to survive. And so Jesus is in the crowd. He's on his way. Bartimaeus hears that he's there. Bartimaeus starts speaking up and really getting loud and trying to bring attention to himself, trying to get Jesus to recognize and to come, because Bartimaeus, look, said basically, I'm not gonna let this pass me by. I know that I've heard about you. I hear that you heal the sick, you raise the dead, you give sight to the blind. Well, here I am. But the disciples and others saying, be quiet, it doesn't take all of that. But the more they told him to be quiet, the more he got louder and louder. And because he did, Jesus asked him, what's all this racket about? What is it that you want me to do for you? Now it makes sense because the man is blind, so obviously the man wants sight. But Jesus asked him because Jesus wanted to restore his dignity to say that your voice matters to me. Your voice matters to me. I care about what is it that you want. And so we really press the fight. You cannot and you should not think that you know what another person wants or needs. I'll say that again. You cannot determine what another person wants or needs. Even if you think that you know, give them agency. Let them advocate for themselves. And of course, the man said, I want to see. I'll restore my sight. Thank you, Joyce, for sharing. I want to see, because not only will he get his physical sight, he'll get his independence. He'll get being able to assimilate. He'll be able to worship freely in the temple. So it's not just getting his physical sight, but it is um changing the narrative of his life. So today we want to focus on the woman at the well and the courage that she had to converse. We want to talk about the woman at the well and the courage that she had to converse. And I just want to this morning focus in on the fact that and what was what she had against her for doing so. Right? I know we go to focus on the 5 husbands she had and all of that, but let me just tell you without going into detail, because that's not where I want to park this morning. I want to we focus on the idea that she had 5 husbands. That's where we spend our energy at, talking about she had 5 husbands. But the fact is, we have built her as a promiscuous woman, but just know that she could not engage in any divorces. And we don't take the fact that her husband could have died. They could have put her away. As a woman in first century Palestine, she could not engage in any divorce proceedings. She couldn't go down to the courthouse and say, I want a divorce. So I want to look at, certainly not that, but I want to look at the fact that she spoke up despite the fear of social judgment. She spoke up. Remember, we say that there are times when you have to do it afraid. It doesn't mean that the fear goes away, but what you have determined was that this fear is not going to paralyze you. That this fear is not going to paralyze you. So this woman, this Samaritan woman, had everything that could be against her to be against her. Not only is she a woman, she's a Samaritan woman. So she's kind of at the intersection of race and gender. Much like us as Black women, right? We stand at the intersection of not only having to deal with racial issues, but also gender, right? Also gender. And then there's a third one, is class or economic, right? So she had all of these things against her, but now Jesus is in her presence and she makes a bold move. She speaks up. She speaks up. She approaches the well at noon. It's not by accident, because most women, and this is John 4, most women drew their water in the morning. But She is already radical. She's coming in the noontime. And when they came in the morning, remember that the well is a place where the women gathered, they talked, they gossiped, they did all the things. This was the gathering spot, right? This was their kitchen table. They gathered. It was a community act. But this woman comes along, and she comes along in the heat of the day. She comes along in the heat of the day. And perhaps her doing so was a sign of isolation, shame, or rejection. Perhaps the other women rejected her. Perhaps the other women made her feel shame because of who she was or the fact that she had five husbands. Perhaps she just decided, I'm not going to put myself in that predicament anymore. I'm going outside of community and I am going to do what I got to do and avoid all the mess. You do know how that is, right? When others in community have made us feel shame, have made us feel rejected, and all of these things. And so we just isolate. And that is the worst thing for anybody to do is isolate. Because the more you isolate, the more problems you're going to encounter mentally and emotionally. So she comes at a time when she's there by herself. And yet, so when she gets there at noon, Jesus, a man, a Jew, and a stranger. Remember, she is a woman and she is a Samaritan. Jesus is at the well, a man, a Jew, and a stranger speaks to her. See, she's coming at a time when she normally wouldn't see anybody. But this time she gets to the well and Jesus is there. A man, a Jew, and a Samaritan. So Jesus speaks to her. She doesn't shrink. She doesn't drop her head. She does the unthinkable to a stranger, a Jew, and a man. She engages in conversation. She speaks. She questions and she engages. She asks, how is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaritan? So she puts it all out there. I'm a woman, I'm a Samaritan. You are a Jew, you are a man, and I don't even know you. She breaks her silence. She does the unspeakable. She has a bold question, like, who do you think you are speaking to me? It breaks her silence. It defies gender norms, religious boundaries, and fear of reprisal. It's a bold move, it's a risky move. But she teaches us that faith sometimes begins with questions and not being quiet. Let's just park right there. Because if it's anything that women have been taught, it's don't ask any questions. Don't ask any questions. Just take whatever is being said, especially from the pulpit. If you ever want to be ostracized in the church, start asking too many questions. Start asking too many questions, especially in Sunday school. Because we do not want critical thinkers in the church. We just want people to be able to regurgitate, to tell the story, to tell the same story the same way. We don't allow for people to have questions, to have an imagination, to use their critical thinking skills. But she goes against the norm and she speaks up. Because sometimes it's not the answer that's the problem, it's the question. Sometimes it's not the answer that's the problem, it's the question. So she speaks up. She defies the culture. She crosses cultural, religious, and gender barriers. Women were not to speak publicly with men, especially alone. Women were not allowed, based upon the culture. Yes, Sandy, critical thinking. So glad to see you this morning. Critical thinking is crucial. So she was not supposed to speak publicly with men. And here's another thing: women, well, Jews and Samaritans, they despised each other. Jews and Samaritans despised each other. Their theological and political divide ran deep. They, can I just say, despise each other? But here she is, a woman, a Samaritan woman, alone at the well with a man that she does not know, and she dares to engage a Jewish rabbi in a theological debate. She engaged with Jesus theologically. She had something to say about God. And so, what is theology? Theology, theo, God, ology, study, the talk, God talk. And this is what, even if you read The Color Purple, and I tell you, this was my just um within the last week, because I never read the book. I always just look at the movie because the book just looks too long. I never knew it was built on these letters, that the book is actually written in letter form. And Celie is engaging in God talk. Celie is engaging in theology. She's talking to God. And this is where this idea of womanist theology comes from. Black women talking to God and talking back to God. I'll deal with that later. But I just want to say that she speaks up. So not only is her gender against her, not only is her ethnicity against her, but also her past. She had five husbands, and the current man that she had was not hers. That could have silenced her through shame. Perhaps that's why she's at the well in the middle of the day, because everybody had already ostracized her. But if you hear nothing else from me this morning, have you ever critically thought through why she may have had five husbands? I'm not going to tell you why, because that'll take me on a whole. But what I want you to do is start thinking. Let's pivot our thinking. The fact that she had could have silenced her and made her keep her head down. Even after Jesus called it out. And Jesus calling it out had nothing to do with him shaming her. It was to say, I know who you are, and I still want to be in community with you. So, despite every barrier, despite everything that was working against her, patriarchy, purity laws, public stigma, all of these things could have silenced her. She did not retreat. She did not back down. She reasoned. She asked questions. And after she was satisfied with the answers or with this engagement, then she had a testimony. Please ask questions and wrestle until you have gotten the answers that you needed. The woman at the well, what she does is models for us, and y'all see I need to be moving along. And Miss Margaret Brown, my mom, not even telling me to hurry up because I need to get out the door. She wrestled with, and she refused to allow the cultural constraints to silence her spiritual curiosity. Listen, be curious, ask some questions. Dr. Renita Weems, a renowned biblical scholar, says that the church is the only place, the church folk especially, that's the only place that we leave our critical thinking skills, our brains outside of the door. We just want to be entertained. We just want to be, to get our fix, to go back home, to get through the week, and then being able to go back the next week. That's why we got to keep going back, because we need the fix again. But where is the transformation? So she speaks up. She refuses to let other people, places, and things silence her spiritual curiosity. She engaged in theological dialogue as an equal. This woman doesn't just answer Jesus, she theologically debates Jesus. Yes. She said, listen, our ancestors worship on this mountain, but you say that the place where people must worship is in Jerusalem. She says, let's talk about that. Oh, this is what we do, but your people say that you must worship in Jerusalem. She speaks as one who knows her people's history, her theology, and her worth. Jesus doesn't silence her and say, well, you're not supposed to question anything. You're not, I'm telling you that you're supposed to worship in Jerusalem. Nah, she says, my people worship on this mountain, and your people worship in Jerusalem, and that's where you say that you're supposed to worship. Let's talk about it. Talk back to the text. She talked back. Can I just get us to say, talk back? Talk back to God. Ask some questions. Jesus doesn't silence her. He reveals truth to her, but he doesn't silence her. And he doesn't tell her what she has to do. He lays it out. Can I just tell you, and you may say, Sherry, you've gone too far. But these evangelistic practices that we have do not bear fruit. This telling people that if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell. If you do this, no, that is not an evangelistic practice we ought to be engaging in. This fire and brimstone thing, it may scare you, it may traumatize you, but it will not transform you. Jesus doesn't silence her, and she becomes the first recorded person in the Gospel of John to engage Jesus in a deep theological question. She is indeed a theologian. This woman, Jesus entrusts her with one of the most profound revelations in Scripture. Jesus says, I'm He, the one who is speaking to you. I'm the one. You're only going to get to your desired destination if you're willing to ask real questions. Ooh, wait. If you are willing to ask real questions. This woman shows us that God meets the courageous, not just the clean. Ooh, we. That God uses the courageous, not just the clean, the squeaky clean. So what this woman does, this Samaritan woman, if I look through my womanist lens, her courage to speak speaks to our courage. This woman, this Samaritan woman's story mirrors the experience of countless Black women marginalized by structures of race, gender, and class, yet they carry divine wisdom, resilience, and a prophetic voice. Can I tell you, perhaps that's why in today's political climate, there's a move to silence the Black woman? Because she carries the oil. She's not weak, she's wise. She's not shameful, she's spiritual. She's not invisible. She is indispensable. She represents, this Samaritan woman represents every woman who's been told she was too much. She was too outspoken. She was too complex. She was too visible. And yet she dared to speak. She didn't whisper at the well. She witnessed at the well. Listen, y'all can see I still got a little bit more to go here. So I want to ask you a question. Here's your thought to take you through the day. What barriers, whether it's shame, fear, cultural, what barriers keep you from speaking your truth? What barriers, whether it's fear, shame, or culture, keeps you from speaking your truth? Here's our closing prayer. But before I do that, I'm still asking that you like, share, and tag. Don't keep this to yourself. Bring others in this space where we talk back. We talk back to God, we talk back to the text, and we talk back to each other. Here's our closing prayer. God, who meets us at the well, thank you for showing us that you listen to women, even the ones others ignore. Give us the courage to speak truth in sacred spaces, heal the shame that silences us, and help us to use our voices to pour living water into dry places. Amen and Ashe. May all be well with your day. Bye bye.